What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what big money is doing and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is down 0.9%, 219 the low, 226 the high, and kind of low volume. Same as yesterday, unfortunately, but 66 million shares being traded, 137 is the average. During the pre-market, you did have a certain level of optimism, and that's because of negotiations between the States and China. Today was day 2. They already did conclude because they were doing it all in London, but nonetheless, from what we've seen online, things seem to be going fairly well. So that's what gave it a nice boost higher during the pre-market, but unfortunately, that was rather short-lived. Throughout the trading day, I think majority of the volume is again coming from algorithmic trading, no different than yesterday, and you are seeing a little bit of a suppression going on here, and that's just because of institution selling leading into tomorrow's CPI. So last minute jitters and stuff like that. But aside from that, specific to Lucid, no official news. There was multiple Form 4s that was submitted after hours yesterday, and ultimately many individuals were awarded new shares, so it's essentially payday if you want to consider it that way, only because a lot of this was linked to the most recent shareholder meeting. And then you did have some individuals selling transaction code F, so meaning for tax purposes. So again, you can't really hate on someone for selling for tax purposes, but nonetheless, that's what all those Form 4s were for. So nothing, like I said, overly crazy. The only other thing that kind of came out, I want to give a shout out to Truth Rules. He kind of gave me this article, but in here kind of talks on how there was recently a name registered as Earth Dream Edition. So at least we know what the next variation is. Lucid's trademarked quite a few different names. One is Ocean. They kind of talk on this down here on how they kind of stole it or grave robbed from Fisker. But nonetheless, I hope they don't use the Ocean because I feel like that would be actually like bad omen or whatever. But Earth, I think that's fits with what Lucid's trying to do. So Earth might be the next variation for Gravity, Earth Dream Edition, or something like that. So it's a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. I think we always knew that with Lucid, just we're not really aware of that. So it's not the best, but this was recent information, so it shows it was granted as of June the 9th. So again, yesterday, so pretty good stuff for that. The only other thing I wanted to bring up is, I guess, in line with kind of transparency and just them talking, and that was this right here. So I kind of complained a little bit on how Lucid didn't really and hasn't been doing any conferences, and that's actually one thing I really do miss about Peter. Even though business-wise, he wasn't the greatest. Tech-wise and passion, he was 1,000,000% better than Mark. 2 trillion. Like, he was hands-on. He would talk for hours. You could tell he had that type of just, hey, like, let's talk about tech. That's all. Like, it doesn't matter what the hell we're talking on. Let's talk about tech. And that was kind of annoying coming from an investor standpoint, I guess. Sometimes when analysts ask questions, he'd like, yeah, but you know, the tech. But anyways, Rivian. So Rivian recently participated in the UBS Auto Conference. That was last week. I was kind of disappointed that Lucid didn't do that because that was more of a tech auto conference. This one as well, another missed opportunity that Lucid could be doing and participating in at the Deutsche Bank Global Auto Industry Conference. So I feel like Lucid is slipping and missing a lot of opportunities, in my opinion. And this is, again, something I kind of started to think about, how I do really miss Peter because he wouldn't let a lot of these slide. So I think that Lucid does need to really get their stuff together and start living up to kind of the hype that they're building for themselves, because during the earnings calls, like post earnings, every single time, like everyone's hyped up, like, hey, Lucid's going to do amazing things. They're going to be doing this, this, and this. So far, in my opinion, the last 2 quarters, ever since Marcus came in, I've unfortunately not really been, I guess, satisfied with the level of transparency and what they've been doing operationally. So I feel like going forward, they really need to get their stuff together. So this is something, I'm not really an overly big fan of Rivian, but they definitely do put their name out there a lot more than Lucid. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up. Aside from that, going over some of the data points, shorts are increasing 1.65 million shares. So they were increasing just recently 2.5. So they did return a little bit. So this push higher was most likely attributed to them, but still right now they are increasing 1.65 million shares. Cost to borrow average 3.09%. 31.8% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 392.14 million shares overall being shorted. So still absolutely crazy. You can kind of see from this purple line right here, they're like hell-bent on just increasing for whatever reason. I'm not really sure where they're getting all of this money from or why they're doing it, but they seem, like I said in the past, hell-bent on really bringing Lucid down. And I've seen some comments in the past like, why do I bring up shorts? I like to bring up shorts more as a sentiment because these individuals are the ones betting against Lucid. So essentially by shorts increasing on a red day kind of shows that they feel that it's justified and that there's more downside, right? It's just another element that you can kind of analyze. And even in general though, not this last week and a half, it's been very abnormal volume, but most of the time Lucid shorts do make up a good chunk. I'd say roughly 20% of the daily volume. So again, if something is influencing any stock 20%, it's definitely worthwhile to bring up. So again, I just wanted to kind of give some context to that. But aside from that, you do have 371,000 in calls, 99,000 in puts. So very low volume with Lucid. And that's been something that's been happening over the last little bit, just very low volume. So yeah, if it stays anywhere remotely close to this, so we have about an hour and a half left in the trading day, if it does stay, like I said, like under 1 million, that would be very, very crazy. But nonetheless, 56% of all the options being done today are bearish in nature. Based on the bulls, you see a consensus still for it to be above 250, and then this bears for it to be sub 2. So a little bit more upside, but pretty much with that 221, it is somewhat level ended right now. But these are the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So you have that string of buying that caused that nice little spike up. And then unfortunately that selling, and since then not really much has been happening. So like I said, a lot of the volume being done today is linked to algorithmic trading. With it right now at 222, trading between this pivot and this S1. So 218 is going to be a strong support. Just watch for that going forward into the next couple of trading days, especially with CPI coming out. And then 248 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. No new articles, no new analyst ratings, anything like that. So it is just pretty much piggybacking off the broader market and incorporating its technicals. So on the actual chart itself, stochastic RSI, very oversold, so that could really help it in the next couple of trading days. But as of right now, it's below all the key pivotal moving averages. So at least in the short term, just watch for that 245. So that's that 50-day moving average, which generally is a very big deal. And then aside from that, 248. So some levels to keep in mind if you're wanting to average down or whatever else. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Discord. It is completely free. A lot of good people talking about stocks, options, crypto, everything that you ever need in life. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.